All right, so I wanted to do a Q&A today. Unfortunately, I don't have my little stick, but it's okay. We're just going to walk and talk. I'll just hold the phone. Um, Wanted to do a Q&A today. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'll probably just start talking. And if anyone jumps on and they have questions about moving to Brazil, about moving abroad with family, or just any questions in general about lifestyle practices as a traveling family, things like that, feel free to ask me live or drop the questions in the comment sections. And I pretty much try to respond to all of my comments unless they're weird. Okay, in which case I'm going to erase them and you'll never be on this channel again. So, yeah, y'all. It's a beautiful day. It's a Friday here. I'm coming to you live from the beautiful city of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And as many of you know, I have lived in Brazil a few different times. This time we've been here about 15 months now. But we've also spent some other years, living in this wonderful country. I'm just so grateful for it. It's just a place where you can have the excitement of all that Brazil has to offer, the culture, the music, the dance, the scene, the art scene, or you can just have a chill lifestyle that has a lot of kind of relaxing components. So there's a lot of beautiful nature here everywhere. It's a tropical country, so you're never going to be short on nature pretty much anywhere you go unless you're just like in the heart of the city. Like here we have very, very urban parts of the city, but even here in Sao Paulo, in the most urban parts of the city, you'll still find big chunks of the forest and the bush that they left intact for people to go enjoy. So I think everybody really loves nature out here. Um, and then once you come out of the big city, just nothing but nature and jungle everywhere. So yeah, it's a really wonderful country. Um, and I don't see a ton of people looking to necessarily move down here these days, even though I would say it's probably one of the best countries you could come to for a number of reasons. I mean, I think people get a little deterred about Brazil because of the language barrier, which for me, I'm like, so you'll go to Thailand where you're pretty much guaranteed to never get the language down, instead of to a country that at least has a little bit of similarity to English or is at least a romantic language, something that you can learn pretty easily. So um, I find it to be odd, but I think with Americans, we're so used to Spanish, that Portuguese just seems like a jump, and it is not an easy language to learn. It's not that easy. You can learn it, but you have to apply yourself, right? And Brazil is very, very Portuguese oriented, so it's not like you're gonna come down here and like in Sao Paulo, a lot of people speak English, but a lot of parts of this country you'll go and there'll be a lot of limitation on being able to speak English or speak Spanish to people because a lot of people think they can speak Spanish to Portuguese speakers. So yeah, all of these things need to be considered for sure when you come out here, but it's well worth it. It's a beautiful language. It's fun to speak. Brazilians are really fun and social. So if you can talk to them in their language, it's better. You can have a more of a richer experience here. So yeah, let's see if anybody comes on. In the meantime, let's shoot the shit a little bit. I mean, there's a lot going on. I don't know if you all have been keeping up with the news. I know some people just kind of drown it out and shut it out because it's just so much bombardment of nonsense at any given point, especially when it comes to big orange. But the newest drama is, I guess, with that shooting out at the Capitol and how he's just going crazy about that. And now all of a sudden it's, oh, we're gonna close off all immigration into America now. So that's the next thing, and it just makes you wonder: are these things false flags? Like, are they making this stuff up so that they can then have the right to do all of the extreme measures that they want to implement, such as cutting off immigration altogether, coupled with also trying to ship out large mass groups of people from very specific countries, mostly countries of brown people, right? So now his newest thing is he's shipping out about 300,000 Haitians, because all of a sudden Haitians are such a huge problem in America, right? And what other countries? Oh, Somali. I mean, all brown people, Somalians, which I hear. Hey, I'm just on here. If you have any questions about Brazil or moving abroad or anything like that, feel free to ask me. I'm just going over some of the current event nonsense that's been going on that I know people are looking around like, what is going on in the US? So just going over some of that stuff. But yeah, thanks for the like. Please put a like on the video when you come on. But yeah, so now he's going after the Somalian community, which most of them are in, I believe, Minnesota. So now all of a sudden the whole Somalian community who, they, I guess they are on some kind of really special visa, maybe some kind of refugee situation. Now they're all being supposedly removed or sent back where they're from. I don't know. But it's a lot of just wild movements, false flags, things that, they're doing to try to point at someone else being guilty for it so that they can then have the right to implement crazy laws and measures that will allow them to do what they want to do in terms of his cabinet and in terms of Big Orange and everything he's trying to do. So it's just crazy. It's a lot of chaos, and a lot of us are just sick of it. I was watching my girl Shayna Conde, an interesting YouTuber here. She's real cool sister. She's a journalist of some sort, and she's living in Thailand right now. Had previously been in, I believe, Spain, but she's doing her little, global nomad vibes. And she was talking about how so many restaurants and restaurateur people that have hotels and restaurants and different businesses that are in the service industry, how they're looking at, especially in coffee. She was referring particularly to coffee, how a lot of these companies overseas in these major, these areas where they really manufacture a lot of coffee and things like that are starting to cut ties with the U.S. They're not as interested in doing trade with the U.S. right now because it's just too much instability. You know what I mean? They got the tariffs now. They have all these different things that have to be thinking about. And it just is not worth it for them when there's so many other countries that they can just do good, clean business with without all the drama. So just too much drama. And what it is it's very isolating for people in the United States because Americans are getting cut off from so many things now. They're sending all of the foreign people out. They don't want nobody to come in. They're making trade damn near impossible. It's just like so much is going on. So a lot of us are looking at moving on, doing something different, even if it's not forever, right? And so I think that is important. I come on here and I pretty much have the same message every time. Everyone doesn't have to move abroad. Everyone's not going to have to leave America. But a good point that Shayna had made on her live stream is that, and not to compare this or try to incite fear in people, but in Nazi Germany, when things were really ramping up, the people that left, before things kind of started to peak and become very, very problematic, um, they were able to kind of hold on to more of their assets and their things before things went all the way downhill. And the ones that were trying to get out at the last minute were really having a hard time and really ended up pretty much losing everything. And so, it's just something to think about because there's obviously a major shift that's taking place that's going to lead to some kind of crash or a bubble or something. And they keep talking about this AI bubble stuff, right? And so there's a lot going on. And every day, all I'm hearing about is mass layoffs. The start, just the beginning. So we all need to, any of us who are tied up in the U.S., have jobs. I still work for an American company, have jobs that are connected to the U.S., are making money, or at least even tied up where a lot of our banking and all of that stuff is taking place in the U.S. We all need to be considering other options. I mean, I'm blessed because I do have a Brazilian bank account. So at any time I could just have my money here and go on about my business, but it doesn't mean that I don't still have that dependency financially because I'm making money in the US. So, these are things that people need to be thinking about. Like, how are we going to adjust if shit crashes, if things go down? What am I going to do with my money? What am I going to do with my assets to protect me and my family so that we don't end up destitute? And so it's a lot to think about. If you guys have any questions about making a move, just anything travel related, especially around family, feel free to ask, okay? They just showed me a little thing I could put up, start a Q&A. Okay. Okay. Ask a question. I don't know if you can see this, you guys. I don't even know what I'm doing. But if you can, feel free to ask a question. I put up a little box that says ask a question. So we're gonna see what happens. Um, but yeah, so that those are some things to be considering, and it's not about fear mongering or anything like that, you know. Um, let me see, maybe I'm supposed to ask a question. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Uh, is imminent. Okay, I'm gonna ask this question, and whoever comes on can choose to answer or not. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing, y'all. So anyway, I hope you can still hear me. I put this up here. I don't know, but anyway, I'm trying to do some more things on here because we got to spruce it up. So yeah. So that's it. Um, it's just a time where there's a lot of uncertainty in the world in general. A lot of uncertainty in the world in general, and it doesn't feel good. It's not comfortable for everyone, but it doesn't mean we can also just go and like hide our heads in the sand. We also need to be thinking about, what our future is going to be looking like. How can we protect what we have and also move forward towards more, I think, sovereignty and more independence, because at the end of the day, a lot of us are still very, very dependent on the system. You can call it the matrix, whatever you want to call it. And if we don't start to extract ourselves, I think, when things start to collapse, obviously we'll get pulled down with it. I have been so I used to have a business that was very much content based and used to make some good money online, more so in the health and wellness realm of things. And so when I stopped making products, because I used to make a lot of products and herbal blends and things, I wasn't seeing as much of because I was able to market through the sales of the products. And it made even services more marketable and easier to to offer. But now, when I'm more in the travel space and things are a little more like just totally service based, it's a little more tricky. But I have a goal to be able to really, really have a fully functioning business here online that is, that I can utilize YouTube primarily as a marketing tool. And I would like to be able to, extract myself from the system because it's not really it doesn't look good for the long haul. It really is not looking that good for the long haul. And then also going deeper into what does sovereignty look like in regards to just lifestyle. Because right now I'm living very urban. Hi, El Camelo International. What was the process to get a bank account from your perspective? Oh, okay. Good question, Camelo, and thank you for asking. So I you have to have a residency here in Brazil or some kind of something that has you here. So I had a residency. So getting a bank account here was so easy because they have a bank here called New Bank that is one of those completely virtual banks that all your banking is done through an app. Not the ideal thing, as we know this digital ID thing is coming down and we don't want to be so digitalized, but I have loved this bank. This is my second bank account in Brazil, and I got it very easily. All I needed was a residency and a CPF number, which is something, if you're in Brazil, you're going to have that CPF number to really conduct the business and deal with things. Okay. Yes, Brazil, for instance, is a country that is very much moving along in the vein of, digitalizing everything. That digital ID is going to come, boom, it's going to come up in here And at that point, folks are going to have to make decisions because I personally know I don't want to be too overly connected, in that way. One, because they can just do whatever they want to you once they have all your biometrics and everything connected into an identification. So I am reluctant, but for now, I have that digital bank account. Now, I have formerly had a normal bank account with a bank here, Banco do Brasil, and it wasn't as pleasant. I much prefer the bank that I'm with now, but it was doable and it was okay, and I could still, make money transfers because I use fintech, you know, to do, very rapid transfers from my U.S. accounts. So I don't have to sit around and wait around to have money in my local bank account here because of Wise. I use Wise. And so, yeah, these are that's a really good question. And you want that because after a while, the debit cards are going to start to expire. Things are not going to be as easy to keep those connections to what you're used to, and to your American accounts and everything. And you at least want to be able to transfer from those accounts into a local account. And so having that local account is going to be very useful for you here. I've heard good things about Nubank. Yep, Wise and Revolut. Okay, yeah, you're already in the planning. Those are the two. I don't use Revolut, but because Wise just works so well for me. But I know about Revolut. Yeah, so you're in your phase and planning stage. It sounds like, or maybe you've already been traveling. But yeah, Brazil, good to go with Wise. Nubank is mwah, could not. I have no complaints. Even when you get in the app, you're having any kind of issue, you go in the back end of that app and start writing them. Obviously, you'll have to be able to communicate in Portuguese or, use a translator. But they're very helpful, very fast about being helpful. So it's on point. And you'll find that a lot here. Things are pretty, like you used to hear about how horrible the bureaucracy is in Brazil. It can be really bad for some things, but mostly things are, quick, it's smooth, it's pretty easy once you get the hang of things, once you onboard and get the hang of things, and everything is so much smoother here than it is in like other countries. Like for me, the US is super behind. Like they are not up to date with a lot of what other countries are doing, you know what I mean, for like seamlessness. But then also you've got a country like Brazil that seems to be very much on board with the digitalization of everything, unlike like certain countries in Europe who are being very hesitant and very studious, making sure they understand everything before they jump headfirst into it. And so you have to, right now we need to be. I keep bringing up the digital ID because y'all, we got to be planning what we're gonna do when these things get forced upon us because it might not be right away. It might be a few years out, but these things are coming. And you know whatever it is, I'm not religious or whatever, but I do know that it definitely lines up with what they say about the mark of the beast, and it is a mark that is very much going to have you under the control of the powers that be, in terms of your ability to buy and sell and to do anything, maneuver, travel, do anything. So yeah, I'm already kind of starting to plan. Okay, how can I start to shift myself into a more off-grid situation over the next year or two? Can we get some property out in the countryside more that at least we can have to go to? Because I love my city, but it's good to have other options that will allow you to kind of be more off-grid and self-sufficient. I'm a farmer. One of my trades is organic agriculture. So if I need to get it in, I can, which you should always be wanting to have something growing, right? So yeah, it's not like nothing but a thing for me to get somewhere and bust the land up and get into it, right? So um, these are things we need to be thinking about for sure. Feel free to ask any other questions. I'm here. I'm just doing my morning walk at my park here by the house. So yeah, that was a great question though. And what else? When you get to Brazil, if you are looking to come this direction, the main thing that's going to enable you to, really take care of business is having that CPF number. And pretty much every few months, seem like they change how to go about getting that CPF. And then it can be very specific to the city or state you're in too. So you'll want to be up on that. I don't think it's worth it to be out here without it. But obviously it'll keep you a little bit less out or less in the system, so it does have its benefits. But it gets kind of challenging to get things done on the ground here without that tax ID number, essentially. So you'll want to have that. For me, it's knowing that I'm not going to be attaching my biometrics to anything. Once they make it impossible for you to conduct and do things without your biometrics being involved, then I know it's time to really speed things up and make a plan, an exit plan, and also building community with other people of like minds that also want to have off grid as an option for them going forward. But for now, most people are just looking to get out of the U.S. potentially and to move on into better horizons and do something else somewhere else without all the bombardment of the insanity. And so, with that being the case, Brazil is a great place for that for now. I love it. I don't know what's going to be going on with all this uh, really stupid stuff that they're doing in the Caribbean right now and in Venezuela, because that could potentially impact um, the stability of Brazil. Because Venezuela is a neighbor that we have a lot of interaction with, and Brazil is part of the BRICS alliance. So that means if there really is anything going on up there, whereas like BRICS is there to help and support, Brazil would be pulled into that. But I don't, from what I can see, all of that stuff just looks like a bunch of fluff. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see if anything happens. But yeah, crazy times. Crazy, crazy times. I have certain YouTubers that their whole thing is putting compilations together of all the TikTokers that are expressing their, what experiences they're having in the U.S. since things started to just really change and shift, where, to the point of it becoming unlivable, I guess, post pandemic. I haven't lived in the U.S. for like 7 years, so I don't remember pre or post pandemic that well, and I was barely there pre pandemic, pre 7 years ago. So it's hard for me. I really don't feel like I know the U.S. that well anymore. But I've heard from a lot of people when I see these compilations about just how unlivable it's becoming. So I totally understand people looking for, brighter horizons, broader horizons elsewhere. And I suggested, I heavily suggested, to be honest, because there's too many question marks. It's too much to be wondering about right now, and about safety, about, how intense they're going to get with this ice thing, and who all is going to get wrapped up in that. It's just a lot. But yes, it's a beautiful Friday. What else is going on? I also am starting to offer services for families that are looking for support, particularly around creating an unschooling and a homeschool kind of world school program for their children as they're moving abroad. So that is something I have been doing for 20 something years. My daughter is 21 almost, and we've been traveling and living in different countries pretty much the whole time. Sometimes we would be in the States, but I never really raised my kids in the US like that. I didn't like it there. So I never really stayed long term, just here and there. So I have a lot of background and experience with that. So for those who are looking to not only consult and coach to help with the planning and getting it together, but also just specifically targeting and focusing in on, what it looks like to create a more sovereign learning plan for your children. So instead of sending them to somebody's school, and some schools are great. I mean, there's schools out here that I would love to put my son in, but they're extremely expensive private schools here. So, for now, we're still doing the homeschooling thing, but there's lots you can do with that it makes it just as enriching, just as amazing for the child, as sending them to an institution. So, um, definitely offering support in that area. And yeah, we got a lot coming up, y'all. We're here to support. Like, if you think you want to make some moves, if you're interested, I've lived in, different parts of Europe. lived in a couple of African countries, different islands in the Caribbean, in the Pacific, different, all around the U.S. and in the territories of the U.S. So out in, the islands and Central and South America. So we don't have Asia. We haven't done anything with Asia. But other than that, we've kind of had some experiences in different countries and would love to share our experience and our know-how of how to, finesse this whole being abroad with children experience because it is a unique one, especially doing it where you don't really have a partner. I've always done it alone. Um, and what it looks like building community in other countries and stuff because you're going to need community. You'll need people to rely on and to call on and things. You're going to have to build community. I mean, that's one thing that's for sure. Everywhere you go, you wouldn't want to be isolated somewhere. So you try to find a community of people of like minds who are conscious, who are aware, who aren't just sleepers, NPC types, but people who are thinkers. And you keep them, connected with you and your family. And that's a fortification. Hi, the CPF would definitely be important. What about public transport? Was it hard to get a transit card? Another really good question. Are you looking potentially to come to the big city here, Sao Paulo, or one of the big cities? I don't ride buses at all because Sao Paulo is so walkable and I live in this amazing neighborhood. So I can walk everywhere and I'm a big walker. So I walk everywhere and then when I need to go into other parts of town, I'm usually going to either ride the train, which is extremely easy to get tickets for that. Or you just go in, you need a debit card, or you're gonna have to have the cash on you. But you go in, okay, yeah, wonderful, yeah. So you go in. Sao Paulo is amazing. Yeah, super easy to get train tickets. I don't buy the cards for because I never know when I'm gonna ride the train. My life is very like freed up like that, so I just buy them when I get to the station. I have a debit card out here, so I use that at a machine. But you may have to go to the kiosk and grab two tickets, one to go and one to return. And then in terms of CPF, yes, you're definitely gonna need that. Um, yeah, amazing transportation. So what I was saying to you is that I will ride the train where I can, and then if it's too difficult, I will Uber, because Uber, I would say the most I have ever spent in Sao Paulo, and remember this is a gigantic city. The most I have spent I have gone out to the periphery in an Uber before, so that was, definitely cost me maybe like $20 USD, but mostly around town and the different places I have to go across town and stuff like that, I will spend $10 USD max. And so most of my Uber rides are literally like 3 or 4 USD, so it's not impossible to use Uber when you need to, but you have so many options. And if you pick the right neighborhood, because for me neighborhood is everything in Sao Paulo, because I need organic food stores, and I need cutesy places to shop, and thrift shops, and vintage places, and like I like good things around me in my neighborhood, so I can pretty much walk to everything I need where we are. um, and then there are other, and then also I need green space. And so we live in the area called Pinheiros in the Villa Madalena area. And it's probably there's a lot of green neighborhoods in Sao Paulo, but it's one of the really green neighborhoods. So you're definitely getting, bush, some bush around you. This is like the yard here by my house. Um, you definitely getting that balance, since I'm so used to living on islands and being in the greenery, living in the jungle and stuff. So I at least need some jungle energy and be able to hear birds and things like that. So this area is great for that. hmm But yeah, you won't have any problems with transportation. The only thing I could say is you will have to do Uber sometimes if you're really trying to go across town, because the train system is really great and really fast. But some places is just not going to take you right up to where you're trying to go. You'll still have to either take a train up near there and then get you an Uber. So you expect to be using Uber, or you could use. They have something here called 99. I think it's called 90, yeah, just 99, which is kind of like an Uber. And then, of course, taxis and everything like that. So, yeah, public transportation, huge bus system, very, very big bus system. I just never bothered. I was like, I just don't care. Like, I'll just walk to the train and do what I need to do because I can walk my train. I have two stations that are exactly like 20 minutes walking from me, which is a great walk, you know. So I love that. So we'll walk to the train unless we're in a rush, and then we'll just Uber to the train, and it costs like $2 or $3, right? So I hope that answered that question. Sao Paulo is amazing. If you're coming, keep in touch for sure. I just adore it here. Like we have lived in Bahia up north as well. So that is really, really tropical, beautiful, brown, lots of brown folk everywhere you look. Beautiful area of Brazil, lots of culture. It's so fun up there. But and I have lived in Salvador in the major city up there, which is just like Disneyland. Basically, is you just partying and having fun all the time. And I've lived in Itacare, which is more, countryside but still lit. So fun, so much art, so much music. It's so fun. So I don't, and it's so nature just gorgeous jungle and waterfalls everywhere. But yeah, so I've done different things in Brazil, but I have to say that Sao Paulo for me is my favorite city that I've ever lived in, and I just love it. It just gives everything. It gives everything, and it gives the peace. So if you want to be in the mix, you want to be in the streets, you can be in the streets. If you want to just be, at peace, you can just be at peace at the crib. Go to one of the city parks, beautiful jungle city parks that everyone loves here, and just go chill out. It's not no force around anything. Everything is just beautiful. Everything is right there. People, if you want to go hear some music, some dance, something like that, you usually don't have to walk far. There's going to be some live music, some samba, something somewhere. It's just always a vibe here. Um, so yeah, I highly suggest it. I know a lot of Americans tend to want to go to Rio when they come out here these days. It used to be like, especially brown folk would go to Rio or Salvador. And they're both great cities, but Rio for me, very gorgeous, very beautiful city, just way too much head on a swivel. You just don't quite feel comfortable there. Not me. I would never feel comfortable in Rio because it's too much criminal activity going on. So whereas out here, I walk around, I have my phone out. You're really not supposed to do that, but I walk free. Never felt a drop of unsafe in Sao Paulo outside of when I'm downtown. They have this area downtown that sometimes we have to go to. A lot of the African folks vend and sell things down there. There's a lot of Africans here in Sao Paulo, so when I need to go get shea butter or something like that, I will go into that downtown area. I still don't feel no way during the daytime down there, but at night, yeah, yeah, you might be wanting to move a little faster and make sure your phone is put away, right? And then there's plenty of neighborhoods here. Like my neighborhood is lit, it's wonderful. But yeah, if I go down to the main shopping districts, Paulista or something like that, I'm not gonna have my phone out and be doing this. You know what I mean? So you just have to kind of know how to maneuver because your biggest issue will be somebody trying to take that phone. That is the biggest thing you will experience somewhere like Sao Paulo. Whereas Rio, other things can happen. I mean, when I lived in Salvador 20 something years ago, I've been robbed in Rio too. But when I lived in Salvador, I've been on buses where we were held at gunpoint. That's how how rough and tough it used to be up there. I've been on, robbed at gunpoint, basically everyone on the bus. I've been, held at knife point. A lot of stuff went down. A lot of street violence, and scary instead of it just being a pickpocketing. It's some scary shit, right? So I went through those things in Salvador heavy back in the days. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Brazil is not to be played with, but Sao Paulo, I have not rarely. I haven't seen anything like a crime out here, and it's just peaceful. Basically, it's just a peaceful city. Now, I mean, it has their dark history. They had a time because gangs and factions and quebradas and favelas and all that stuff. They got that out here. So, okay, I don't know if you're familiar with Brazil, but basically, we live in what they call centro, so in kind of more the center of the actual city, which is like 12 million people. And then there's another 10 million on the outskirts of the city. So it's a huge, gigantic city, but in that area, periferia. Oh God, I can't say this word. Okay, periferia, but it's the periphery, periferia. The periphery is where they have moved all of the brown folks. The brown folks mainly live in the periphery of the city. That when they formerly were here in the city, helping grow coffee and doing things like that. So they have gentrified the hell out of this place. So when you're in the center of the city, like in my hood, it's very mixed because Brazil is a very mixed country, but it does look very European, very white because they have moved us. We are like brown folk are in the outskirts. And so when you go out there, it's like a whole nother world, okay? Whole other world out there. Like, wow. And then a lot of people living in housing, because the economy is so hard on brown folk. It's very unfair towards them. And so, a lot of them are living in the quebradas and the neighborhoods, whatever you want to call it, favela neighborhoods. So you'll see those structures when you go out of Sao Paulo. It's unbelievable how many of them there are. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes down in understanding the history of Brazil and racial history and how the disparity is so wide here. But in terms of lifestyle, sadly for foreign people, you can have a really good lifestyle here as long as you have some money. You have to have some money, and São Paulo is not cheap. So I wouldn't tell anyone to come here who's looking for like real discounted living. Yeah, things are cheaper than the U.S., but it's not like major discounts. It's kind of like Costa Rica. You're not going to be able to like live super cheap, even though I've lived in Costa Rica way cheaper than I do here in Sao Paulo. I'll put it that way. So yeah, Sao Paulo is not the big bargain location, but it's nice and the quality of life is there. Yeah. So just something to consider. Rio's maybe about at the level of Sao Paulo, maybe a touch cheaper, but I don't think so. I'd say they were about the same. Sao Paulo's expensive. Um, and you have to really lock down to make sure you're not overspending here. And groceries, groceries will really get you out here compared to like being in Bahia where groceries are like dirt cheap mostly. Yeah. You'll get caught up with food in Sao Paulo if you're not careful. And rent too. But yeah, it's a great city as long as you have some income. I would. And then there's also like options for lower income living too, because you can also get these little kitchenette, these small little studio apartments here pretty easily, and pay like maybe like 400 or 500 a month for that. And so you have options for like lower income living, but overall, Sao Paulo is not the cheapest. It's not like going to maybe like parts of Thailand. I don't know. I don't even know where it's affordable like that anymore. I mean, like the whole world is just so different. But it's just something to keep in mind. Got to keep the paper rolling. But yeah, thanks for asking me all the questions, El Camelo. I'm not sure if you're a he or a her, but I appreciate you. And yeah, we're gonna be on again pretty soon. I am going to post this. Yeah, if you have any other questions, you can ask underneath the video too. I don't mind. I always respond to people. And that's about it. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Y'all check my links below. I'm going to be posting some links for, some of the services we're offering and things like that. But